It was quite interesting seeing Eris in the real world last time, the Divine Deception. Now we're going to resume our Thane and Mercury storyline. Dragon Triplet. Oh, that's right. We're going to find out about the, yeah, when we last left off Mercury's story. We were in Odin Daesma's house, heading into the secret murder basement. There's something thoroughly unnerving about the scene I found myself in. It was pitch black. Un momento. I had it on faith that the way we came from wouldn't permanently lock behind us, trapping us who knows where. The stairs beneath my feet were uncomfortably stone. I didn't know who to be more intimidated by, the assassin who had likely made his way to the surrounding house at this point, or the crazy owner of this mansion who built a secret underground tunnel. And this tunnel. My god, this tunnel. Really, it felt like nothing was off limits as to what I might discover here. Maybe it was an underground pathway to another house. Maybe below was some sort of secret cloning laboratory, experimenting with high-level technology ordinary people aren't supposed to know about. Maybe we are going to find an underground dungeon filled with cages holding those who had dared to question the great Odin Daesma. Maybe I was just going to stumble across a particularly well-stocked wine cellar. All were very real possibilities. And all I could do was walk further and further down in complete darkness. This was, frankly, a sanity testing experience. But I had come this far. Life up until this point had been plenty sanity testing. Was this really that different? Before I could ponder things further, I heard a stumbling in front of me. You okay? Yeah. Just kind of lost my footing for a second. Careful, the stairs end up ahead. Oh, thanks. With Laura's warning, I was able to take the following steps with an important caution. Sure enough, I felt the absence of another step down. I must have gotten to the main floor of whatever was down here. God damn, is it dark. You're just putting that together now. Well, I mean, I guess I thought it'd get brighter when we were down here or something. Maybe there's a light switch. There's gotta be, right? Probably. Look, I'll paddle alongside the left wall, you do the same for the right. See what we find. Hopefully a light switch, maybe something else. Alright, that sounds reasonable. With a seemingly reasonable plan in place, I began blindly feeling alongside the left wall. This too was stone. Being honest, I was a little worried about this approach. Common sense dictated that there'd be a light switch somewhere near the stairs. But common sense did little to contain Odin's architectural ambitions. This very area was proof enough of that. All of a sudden, I could see the wall I was padding against. Behind me, some dim lights had been turned on. I turned around, and sure enough, I could finally see the chamber we were in. And yep, this feels about right. Illuminated by a few hanging lights, Laura and I stood in a veritable underground war room. Could be forgiven if you mistook this place for an armory. All around the room, ancient armors and delicate instruments of war were proudly displayed on wooden plaques and displays. It really ran the gambit in terms of time periods and places. A Mesopotamian sword and shield, a Revolutionary era set of pistols, the armor of a shogunate, a bow and a quiver from... I wasn't cultured enough to place it. Robes, hammers, guns, ropes, helmets, all sorts of memorabilia were proudly displayed. I guess Odin was just a real history buff. That fit. Wow. I mean... wow. You're telling me. This is a collection that would put some low-rate museums to shame. And all this culture is just, what, rotting away in privacy? For Odin's eyes only? Pretty much. The shit I'm talking about. This is why we should be targeting Olimpo. I thought you were an Odin fan. The hell? I never said anything like that. Besides, it's not like my beef's against Odin specifically. Most of the houses littered around this forest are like this. There's a whole class of people who have too much for their own good. A class of people that I wouldn't feel an ounce of guilt robbing blind. Yeah, well, good luck with that. As for me, I'm not really interested in all this historical stuff. I mean, it's fascinating, probably. That's kind of the least interesting thing here for me. As I said, the weapons, while eye-catching, weren't what was important about this underground chamber. That was just decoration. No, the thing that caught my eye was the oval table in the center of the room, with chairs all around it. One side of the table, I noticed a not quite finished glass of wine. This place. I'm guessing this is Odin's real office. Yeah, I'm thinking you're right. I mean, look at all these chairs. Bet he has meetings here. With, like, a secret cabal of elites. Wild. Looked around the room carefully. No, I don't think so. Huh? I don't think people regularly meet here. I mean, this place is certainly built like it could accommodate others. Something tells me that that's more of a formality than anything else. Tch. How could you possibly say that? Well, for one, I don't think many other than Odin would tolerate meeting in a creepy secret underground passage with a complicated method of entering. That's not proof of anything. People would do a lot of shit to accommodate Odin. Alright, well, look at the chairs. That one right there, it's kicked out. All the others are pushed into the table. Not only that, look at the chair legs. There's a shitload of dust all over most of them. And the table, too. That also suggests there aren't a lot of visitors. See, that side of the table has some discolorations. Bet it's from a bunch of wine stains. Rest of the table? Pretty uniform looking, wouldn't you say? Instead of responding, Laura just looked at me. For the first time, suspicion clouded her eyes. Who are you? Huh? First solving that puzzle, now this? Aren't you a little too clever? What can I say? I'm just perceptive. Probably why I was able to get this far in my investigation. I'll say. Ever think about becoming a detective full-time? Me? Detective? Ah, cute thought, but I can't really see it. Well, I could. Full-time detective, huh? Huh. It was a nice thought. Well, if I'm a detective, I'm going to start snooping around. Forgive me, but given the lengths gone to hide this place, there's got to be some juicy secrets around here. And my curiosity is yet to be sated. Go for it. We got time to kill. And I'm also pretty interested in what old Odin's been hiding in a place like this. The go-ahead from Laura, I decided to start investigating proper. There was one place to start. I walked over to the table where Odin seemingly normally sat. As I got closer, I saw more clearly that the table had a number of cabinets. I pulled out the one directly behind Odin's chair. Inside, I found a laptop. Huh. I took out the laptop and put it on the table. Then I opened it up. What's that? Odin's personal laptop, if I had to guess. I wonder, what's being kept on this? Awful lot of secrets, I'd imagine. I started clicking on random keys and the screen lit up. Damn. What? Password protected. Oh. Obviously, of course there'd be a password on the laptop. Password. What would Odin put as a password? Some part of me thought that Odin was the type to try to get clever with his password. Make it something that could actually be guessed. But unfortunately, I was just drawing a blank. I had too many ideas toward what could be the password, which functionally meant I had no ideas at all. I sighed and closed the computer. Whoa, and you're just giving up like that? Yeah. Can't you... I don't know, like hack your way in or something? Hack my way in? Seriously? It's a thing? It is. I mean, it might be possible. But I need another computer and a connection. Just hacking a random computer never seen before from the password screen. Yeah, no, that's just not possible. Damn. That's fine. Something else caught my eye on that cabinet. Indeed, something else had. Below the laptop, there was also a big folder stuffed with papers. I was going to look at that after I had scraped the computer. But, well, I couldn't get into the computer. So, time for this. I placed the folder on top of the table. Then before I opened it, I paused. What are you waiting for? This is a crime, isn't it? I mean, obviously. Also, is that really stopping you now? Dude, a little late for that. You broke into a mansion in the middle of the night. Under duress? Legally speaking, it's pretty much fine. Or at least the case against me would be as weak as paper. If you say so. Looking at this, though, that's just an invasion of privacy. Is that really going to stop you? I mean... No. No, it's not. Token objections made, I began. Eagerly, I opened the folder and began leafing my way through the various files and documents. I was really excited to see what I could find. Which is why initially I was disappointed. What do you see? So far? Nothing special. It's just a bunch of Limbo corporate documents. Financial records, future plans, etc. It's all pretty boring. Ah, that sucks. It did. And I'm sure to certain people there were interesting things buried in all this seemingly useless information. To a layman like me, I could at least tell that Olympus seemed to be doing well. Not that I needed these documents to confirm that. There was a lot of information. Some of it was probably important in some way. I couldn't parse it. I was in a slight rush. It all looked Greek to me. I kept flipping through the page after page. Was it all just this? Those feelings of disappointment were soon dissipated, though. What the? Find something interesting? You could say that. Right here. This looks like a report on Odin's own son. Huh? Subject, polydesma. A picture's attached. And look, there's this whole list of traits. Places where Polly likes to spend time. Things Polly has done in the past. Are some of these true? Okay, well, moving on. Polly's notable personality traits. His assets. His connections. All this is described in painstaking detail. That's creepy as hell. Being spied on your son like that? Can't say I'm surprised. Found in the document I spotted the most surprising thing of all. Threat level 2.6? Threat level? That's what I'm confused about. There's an explanation with it. Impulsive, emotional, resentful, and with talents and resources to actively disrupt things if provoked. Potential ticking time bomb. However, ultimately, aligned with interests. Could cause minor damage, unlikely to seriously upset things. Lara didn't know how to respond. I felt similarly. That cold analysis. Its implications were troubling, to say the least. But if Lara was struck by that page, she would have likely been floored by what I found on the next page. Whoa. What? It's a file on you in here. The fuck? Show me. Instantly, Lara came over to get a better look. I just showed her what I was looking at. A similar file to Polly's had been collected on Lara. Notably, the file included Lara's connection to the Shikome. At the bottom, threat level 3.4. Lara's sharp, personable, and has long-term goals. Her philosophy is somewhat troubling, and a close eye should be kept on her. However, at the end of the day, unlikely to affect real change. Unlikely to affect real change. Unlikely my ass. Irritated, she stormed off. I couldn't say I blamed her, but I wasn't content to stop here. I looked through a few more files, all looking very similar. So I came across one that stuck out to me. Huh, here's one on Bach. Bach? You mean the guy who's running against Aisha? Yep. Apparently he's... The last threat level was erased. This one here shows 0.6. Damn. Poor Bach. I'll say. Situation handled. Uh-oh. A non-player, non-factor. Only reason threat level is slightly raised is because of interaction with one lock. Need to learn more. Still unlikely to change things. Is this situation handled? Hey, I have to ask. Did anybody have a higher threat level than me? If it makes you feel any better, no, nobody did. It doesn't, but thanks. I suppose the real question is, are these rankings out of 10? Damn. So in Odin's mind, 3.4 is the highest a threat can get? Well, we don't know the scale. Maybe it's out of 5. In that case, 3.4 is nothing to sneeze at. It's probably out of 10. Probably. I continue to flip through the folder, and beyond the threat level files, there are more interesting pages. Huh. What? Find a particularly threatening individual? No, I'm past those files. At the back of this folder, there are these photos of police reports. And, like, not public information stuff. These are internal investigative notes. Whoa. And, wait, photos? Yeah, not the reports themselves. They're very clearly photos of these reports. I mean, what the fuck is up with Odin? How's he getting his hands on this stuff? It was sort of interesting to me. But not the most interesting fact. No, what I was interested in were the specific cases Odin had photos of. There were a few photos of the fairly lengthy internal report on the double murder that occurred at Governor Aija's fundraising gala. There was some of a robbery incident, one that occurred at Limbo HQ. Oh, it was about the stolen laptop and the information inside. It made sense for Odin to have that file. How do you know about that? What really struck me was the last file. It was only a single photo because the internal report on the case was pretty slim. It was a report from Governor Aija of harassment and vandalism that took place at her house in the forest. Why would Odin have a photo of the report on that case? It was a pretty petty one. Yo, Mercury. My thinking was interrupted by Lara. Meantime, as I looked through this folder, she had been wandering around the room, looking at various displays. And now she stood at the far side of the room. Yeah? Made me want to take a look at this. I mean, maybe it's nothing, but it just... This display feels different? Let me look. I trusted Lara's instincts on this one. I stood up from the chair and walked over to the other side of the room. Indeed, this display differed from the others. One, there was no weaponry to be seen. No armor, not even a relic. Just a single piece of paper and a photo. I decided to start with a sheet of paper. It appeared to be a poem, written by Odin himself. The writing was in black ink, likely penned freehand. I decided to give the poem a read. Tremurti. Creation. Preservation. Destruction. The natural cycle of all things in life. Creation. Preservation. Destruction. All good things come in threes. The heart, the brain, and the body. Faith, hope, charity. Father, mother, child. Creation. Preservation. Destruction. The 3 basic desires of humanity. Having kids creates life. Eating meals preserves life. And murdering others destroys it. Creation. Preservation. Destruction. What if these principles were applied intelligently? If good things could be preserved, if better things could be created, if worse things could be destroyed, what would the world be like? Creation, preservation, destruction. Aija and the police are preservation, the Duats are destruction, Limpo is creation. People in poverty curse the gods, but this is foolish. Without our creators, what would be left? Preservation, destruction. Without our guardians, what would be left? Destruction. After that, what will be left? The poem ended there. Oh. Cool story, Odin. I had a feeling that Odin wasn't going to be winning any Pulitzers anytime soon. I think he just blatantly ripped off Schoolhouse Rock at one point there. But I couldn't help but feel like that wasn't written haphazardly. For Odin to hang the poem here amidst all these other things, I must feel pretty strongly about what he's written. The poem was just the appetizer. The real meat was the picture that was hung above it. Hey, wait. Hold on a second. It was a simple old photograph. 3 men were standing together, grinning, having fun. Normally I wouldn't think twice about a photo like this, but something caught my eye. The guy on the left here, that's Odin, right? He's a lot younger, but that's definitely him. I can tell. That's not all. See the young guy on the right? That's Marduk, my boss. Oh. I almost did a double take. Excuse me, the fuck? Look, I'm sure. I've had enough time face to face with Marduk to tell. It's definitely him when he was younger. Seriously? I had no fucking idea Odin and Marduk knew each other. What's that about? Fuck if I know. I've heard Marduk talking with Odin or anything. It's news to me, too. The head of Olimpo and the head of the Duat standing together, smiling like this. That's huge. Wait. The guy on the left is Odin and the guy on the right is Marduk. Who's the guy in the center? Laura and I exchanged a look. Neither of us had an answer. Maybe it's just a common friend? I shook my head. Normally I'd be inclined to agree. Occam's razor and all. This photograph was hung right above Odin's poem. And he put it under that lens. I mean, the pieces start to fit together. Forming what? I don't fucking know, but something. Something concrete. I began thinking. I thought a lot. Tried connecting all manners of pieces of information I had stored. This picture. It told me that if I really wanted to learn about the truth, not just about whatever happened with JC, but about this whole damn city, this picture would be the path towards that. Still, the pieces weren't quite lining up. I must be tired of all this running around and hiding and whatnot. I know I recognize this person in the middle. That face is familiar. Really? I'm drawing a complete blank. And again, these people are all so much older nowadays. I mean, take a look at Odin. He was, like, handsome. Ah! And how exactly is that different from nowadays? Ah! I felt myself jump nearly half a foot off the ground. Lara also looked visibly shocked, though she held it a bit better. I guess we win our bet. I turned around and sure enough, Odin was making his way down the stairs. Okay, maybe we don't, because he wasn't down here already. He came down here. Looking at Odin and his silent feet. Couldn't process what that actually meant for us. I was too off guard. Lara, however, realized that being caught down here with no explanation wasn't exactly a good look for us. Oh, Odin. You ended up here too? So weird. I don't know how we ended up here, so... Oh, don't pussyfoot around it. You broke into my domicile. You went into my sanctum. You solved my riddle. And now you stand in my war room. Lara and I just exchanged a look. Denying anything at this point just felt fruitless. Pretty much. Odin just nodded. Nicely done. Most acceptable. So wait, how did you know we were down here? Pah. By asking that very question, you insult me and my capabilities. It's not as though you cleaned up after yourselves well. One look at the room upstairs and I knew it was obvious I had visitors. Why were you in that room? It wasn't the first I checked. But knowing someone had broken in, I couldn't help but check if my sanctum had been invaded. Okay then, but how did you know somebody broke in? We got around the alarm. Did we not? Oh, you evaded those defenses quite handily. I wouldn't boast that as any grand accomplishment. And again, how did you know someone else broke in? Why the sound of shattering glass tipped me off. The sound of... You were up. This time of night. It is hard to say. I've gotten the practice of maintaining an equilibrium between consciousness and slumber. A technique nursed over many years is the ultimate expression of the mantra, sleep with one eye open. Gripping your pillow tight. Nowadays, I don't think I am ever truly asleep. Laura and I just exchanged a silent look. I don't think either of us truly knew how to respond to this. At this point, Odin had made his way down the stairs, now rounding the table toward us. As he got closer, I thought I saw something that resembled recognition flash across his face. Ah, I thought as much. Though with the dreary lighting and my waning eyesight, I wasn't yet sure. Lovely Lara. Thought that voice of yours sounded familiar. Lara looked back at Odin nervously. Odin? Good to see you again. Is that right? I sense hesitation in your voice. Oh, we didn't get caught with our, hands in the cookie jar, so to speak. And again, you found yourself in a situation that has forced you to break into my house and seclude yourself in a damp basement like this one. Perhaps I am sensing a misattribution of emotions. Sure? Regardless, I, for one, am most pleased to see you in my halls once more. I said that eventually, given time, you would be back. And look at you now. I'm back. You really are psychic. No, not hardly. Just correct. And you? Odin turned his gaze toward me. Oh, it's you. Me? Do you know me? Do I not? No. Odin stopped in his tracks for a second. He looked me over, eyes squinted. Then a slight smile crossed his face. Ah, I see. Apologies, you see. The way you carried yourself, it reminded me of somebody else. Looking closer, however, I see that I've yet to meet the person that stands before me. A very interesting use of your words there, sir. Well, my name's Mercury. I know this isn't the best of situations for a meeting, but it really is an honor to meet you, sir. Likewise, Mercury. I believe there were hints that Mercury might be someone we recognize. At the very least, that Mercury knows more about Odin than he's letting on. And obviously Odin recognizes him as somebody else. But at least Odin is willing to keep that to himself. Creepy. I don't suppose I'm owed an explanation as to why you two are snooping around in my war room. Impressed as I may be that you found this place, that does not change the fact that you are most certainly invading my property. Odin. Lara looked over to me. I shrugged. Lara could take the lead from here. To not bore you with too many details, the point is, the two of us are currently being chased by a very dangerous man. We found ourselves in the forest with a bit of a lead, and well, I thought of your place. Sorry. Odin considered this explanation for a moment. That explains your presence in this house. Not this room. Well, we just accidentally... We went looking for a, safe place to hide, and, well, we were looking for some place to hide. I suggested the room upstairs. Then Mercury here noticed the puzzle and solved it. This thing opened. And, we got curious. So you had no intention of finding them through this room when coming here, and yet you unearthed it. Yeah. All of a sudden, Odin broke out into a fit of laughter. He began clapping uncontrollably. It was quite uncomfortable. Good show. Truly remarkable. To see through my intent in so effortless a manner, it speaks quite positively to your character. I don't think it was that impressive. Oh. This little bunker of mine was a recent installation to my residence. Bit of a personal luxury. It's only added after my sons and all left this house. Still, making a puzzle without any money to solve it is a rather sad prospect, I'd say. Then I've made sure to allow plenty of opportunities for those of worth to try and see through my plaque. And yet almost nobody other than myself has ever set foot in these halls. And tonight, you too have made it here. That is no small deal. Almost? Oh, well, thanks, Odin. I think the whole statue puzzle is really cool. I was sick of moving around the truth. I wanted answers. No, I was owed answers. Who's this? Mercury. Sorry, Laura, I've danced around the issue for long enough. Individual of action. I like it. Odin, you're smart. You see your laptop on the table, the file. We've been snooping. Because I want the truth. My search for the truth is the reason I was chased here in the first place. Frankly speaking, there's a lot I could ask you. But I understand you. You're not just going to tell us everything we want to know. Certainly not for free. Like those threat reports in that folder, I could ask what the deal with those are, but I'm not going to. I don't care about that. What I care about is that picture. Specifically, who the man in the center is. I want you to answer that. A brief moment of silence passed. A moment where I feared that I had pushed too far. Then, Odin nodded. It's not an identity I can reveal lightly. And again, you did outwit my security system, solved my riddle, invaded my war room. Instantly, you circled in on the most powerful information to ask for, and you asked for it with force. A most impressive display. Most impressive display indeed. Odin nodded to himself a few more times. Very well. Considering your deeds, I think you are owed this story. Neither Laura nor myself knew what to say. We just stayed quiet and nodded. I couldn't speak for Laura, but personally, I was extremely excited to hear what this story Odin was going off about entailed. So then, like most matters of great importance, this is a tale of ancient history. Why is ancient history so important? Simple. Time amplifies all. Small events from long ago are like a snowball. As they roll down the hill of time, they grow in power, in size. A rule that has lasted a year is an idea. A rule that has lasted a decade is a tradition. So you see, if you're looking for power, you must look backwards. The story starts with a young entrepreneur looking to bring the family business to new heights. Yes, I'm speaking of myself. Back in the day, Olympia was not the titan it was now. In fact, the legs upon which it stood were spindly and weak. A single well-aimed blow would topple the whole enterprise. Why, were it not for my skilled command, Olympia likely would have fallen decades ago. However, I was blessed by the gods with an unstoppable instinct. This blessing flows in my blood. I've even passed it down to my sons, though to diminished effect. It was this blessing that helped turn the tides of the market away from the floundering Olympo. Ingenuity alone was keeping us afloat. But in this world, ingenuity is not enough. Enough to survive, maybe, but not enough to grow. Not enough to rise. Above all else, I wish to rise. Odin sighed. I am humble. I'm aware that on my own, I likely never would have made it to my position today. But the gods blessed me not only with instincts, but with luck. In those early days, I was approached by an incredibly charismatic man. Looks, intelligence, a silver tongue. Truly, he had it all. This man at the time was merely an author. He had written a few books on political philosophy. Books of decent acclaim. At the time, from an outsider's view, there was nothing remarkable about the man. I had to know him personally to see his potential. There are not many in this world I view as my equal. Fewer still I view as above me. That man, Zahak Ubir. He was greater than us all. What a jolt caught my spine. Zahak? Fuck, I know him. He was that old governor. A lot of his policy still shapes Panthea. He was pretty well respected before he got ousted for the whole corruption thing. Spoilers, Laura. Spoilers. Let the story progress at its own pace. Ah, well. I suppose there's a place for a little dramatic irony. Perhaps knowing the eventual end makes things more compelling. Leaving a mystery, wondering how things came to this. I think I can guess. A bright young one like yourself might. See, Zahak approaching me, befriending me, he wasn't doing so haphazardly. Just like I could see the natural talent in him, so too could he see the worth inherent in me. From a mere outsider's glance, he could tell that, in the right circumstances, I could lead Olimpo to greatness. That I was precisely the man he needed. And so one night he invited me out to a private meeting. One out by the Panthean seas. Naturally, I agreed. When I came, I found that I was not the only one he invited that night. He also brought a bright young man by the name of Marduk. What I was in the business world, Marduk was in the criminal. Not yet given the respect he was due, but hungry. Now, I must confess I didn't react to Marduk's presence perfectly in the beginning. Soon enough, I got my priorities in order and listened to what Zahak had to say. What he said that night would change the course of all three of our lives. Odin stopped for a moment, closing his eyes, smiling. Gently swayed in place, clearly losing himself in the memory. The pitch-black night sky, illuminated only by the stars and the waning moon. I can picture it to this day. I was getting impatient. What did Zahak say? I'm getting to it. See, Zahak was an opportunist, a dreamer. He pointed out that there were, broadly speaking, 3 pillars of power that dominated every city in this country. 3 worlds in which most change originated. The political sphere, the business world, and the criminal underworld. When you got down to it, those were the 3 spheres of influence that all meaningful change sprung from. He noted that if someone was to control all 3, their power would be, in essence, complete. That's... Oh, I can already see it in your eyes, Laura. You misunderstand Zahak's sentiment. This was not some callow attempt at self-benefit. No, he was far more ambitious than that. Any well-bred idiot can be rich. What Zahak desired was the creation of a paradise. Cynics may deride it as impossible, but the scholar of political philosophy that he was, Zahak believed that, if given the resources that he needed, he could make a perfect society. A meritocratic ideal that balanced human equality and autonomy in equal parts. He thought such a city was possible. All he needed was the power to create it. Quite a self-centered view. All views are self-centered, Mercury. Your eyes can only look from your own head. Zahak saw the big picture. His plan was simple. The 3 of us form an alliance. We would use each other to become the heads of our respective industries. And then, from the top, we would rule. Zahak would pass and change the laws to maintain the ideal society. My company would create technological innovations to improve every aspect of life. And Marduk's gang would handle anyone who dared to get in our way. I was lost for words, but for several reasons. Quite clever, don't you think? I guess. I thought so too, and so did Marduk. And so we set the plan in motion. Honestly, I thought it would take a lifetime to achieve. Sure, our rise wasn't instant. But we were 3 men of talent. And most importantly, we each had 2 other men of talent at our disposal. To start, Marduk and I had to rise in the ranks. Marduk's people targeted my business rivals. My company supplied jobs and locations for Marduk's people, and operations. And Zahak was quick to chip in with bright ideas. He was never without one. Soon enough, both Olimpo and the Duat stood strong. It was time for the next phase. Zahak had been preparing for some time, but finally he had what was necessary to make the bid for governor. With his own charisma, he probably already stood a decent chance. With Marduk and myself backing him, his success was ensured. We acted as his serpents, striking out at any potential threat. Olimpo's funds were secretly used to crush the opposition under monetary weight, and the Duats handled all matters that needed to be settled under the fog of darkness. The selection was not a fight, it was a certainty. It's a crowning ceremony. A ceremony that Zahak put in his rightful place as leader of Panthea. Wow. Wow is right. True villainous rise to power, told with dripping nostalgia. From there, Zahak began to rule justly. His ideas were put into effect and yielded quick results. There's a reason so much of the current framework is based upon Zahak's doings. Legitimately, he was extremely popular back in the day. Unprecedented approval rates. Keep in mind, this was just during the start of his reform. To make a true utopia, massive reforms would need to be made. But even the small steps he made were already creating waves. All the while, Zahak was good to his own word. Good to his friends. Making sure we would always have his back, he made sure he had ours. His legislation created tax loopholes and labor technicalities that kept Olympus' profits at bay. Tidy. His policies pushed people into the Duat's open arms. Which seems like a contradiction, but all was going well. And then, once again, Odin sighed. Shook his head with a forlorn look. So close. So close to perfection. Had things been slightly different, well, Panthea would be a much better place. Unfortunately, ideals are fragile. Houses of cards easily toppled. What did Zahak in was being too good of a governor. He wished to perform each of his duties with unparalleled efficiency. It included appointing the most fitting possible person as the chief of police. And to that damned Judas, Chief Apis. I'll give Apis this, he was good at his job. Too good. Perhaps in retrospect, the flaws in appointing an incredibly competent detective as chief of police while doing illegal things yourself are a bit more apparent. If you think? Perhaps the Zahak expected that Apis would also see the vision. Yeah, it does kind of fall apart if you can't get your downline on board with your vision. That he would see the grander picture. But Chief Apis may be talented, but he was too stubborn and short-sighted. As soon as he uncovered Zahak's shady dealings, he publicized them and pressed charges. And like it or not, Zahak had no real recourse. In the criminal world, your power is measured quite literally by your manpower. In the business world, your power is your money. While in the political world, your power is your image. Of the three, the last one is by far the most fragile. A single bull-headed instance, Chief Apis undid all of Zahak's machinations. Zahak was thrown in jail and found guilty at trial. Thinking of how many years a genius like him spent behind bars. It's a sickening thought. Definitely. Odin took a moment to stretch out his arms. Since Zahak fell, nothing's been the same. I get on well enough with Marduk, but I followed Zahak, not him. He was the one with a grand vision for Panthea. He was the one who would lead us further than we thought possible. With him in jail. Well, to put it simply, I guess I just lost motivation. Marduk felt similarly. Besides, we had already reached domination in our respective fields. Our collaboration, to put it simply, was no longer necessary. And so, with the imprisonment of Zahak, our pact dissolved. Marduk and I had an understanding not to directly challenge the other's power at any point, for the sake of old times and civility. But beyond that, we were on our own. Well, from there wasn't really much to handle. I found once you reach a certain threshold of power, gaining more of it becomes significantly easier. For a genius like myself, it wasn't much of a challenge at all. I brought Olimpo to new heights, and more importantly, I primed the next generation. I taught my sons how to rule. Tried to, at least. In truth, none of them really grasped the true extent of my lessons. That's fine, I suppose. Perhaps it is unreasonable to expect others to reach my heights, even my progeny. Still, I did a fine enough job of shaping them. Shaping them? That's a pretty cold way of phrasing it. It's a cold job. Parents who govern with love take the easy route out. They are afforded with the luxury not to care about the outcome. You know what the problem with power is. You gather enough of it, eventually it will all be wasted. You will pass away before you get to reap the full benefits of all that power. Being wasteful is a cardinal sin in my eyes. But there's one way to keep a hold of power, even beyond death. That is, to store it. Keep it in your legacy. If you pass your power off to your offspring, to your successors, then your power doesn't waste away. It doesn't fade. It strengthens over time. It lasts. It shapes the world long after you're gone. Not just your power, your will, your ideals, your knowledge, your looks. In some senses, a strong legacy is the greatest power you could reach for. So of course I would take the matter of creating my legacy quite seriously. Okay. I think I get it. You're just looking out for your sons. You get nothing. I was looking out for my legacy. Are your sons not your legacy? Pah. At any rate, you wanted your story, you got it. That was the tale of the glorious rise and fall of Zahak. Nowadays, that young upstart Aisha has tried to take the place of Zahak. To give credit, she has more spunk than I expected from her. That's all she has. Spunk. She's moving in the direction that Zahak set out, but unlike Zahak, she moves ploddingly and slow, without refinement or direction. It is progress, but it is passionless. I can sense hesitation in her. Weakness. Ultimately, she cares more for her own skin than the domain she rules. That's why she could not be a truly great ruler. So you don't support Aisha? Odin shrugged. I'm more indifferent, I suppose. She has her merits. She has her faults. I am now an old man. I can't be bothered with every passing distraction. If she wishes to play ruler, I won't stop it. Besides, if I understand correctly, my eldest son Art has created an arrangement with her not dissimilar to my arrangement with Zahak. Again, a hollow recreation, lacking strength and unity, but it is something. So, Lara was still reeling from everything. So what, the Duats are just a puppet organization? They were created to help some politician? Created? No, Lara. The Duats were around far before Marduk's rise to power. Now the Duats expanded to help some politician. That might be an accurate assessment of things. The hell? What the fuck? What sort of bullshit is that? The Duats are supposed to help the people, not serve some fucking elite class. Lara, you misunderstood the whole point of this story. The entire plan was built to help the people. Why do you think Zahak did any of this? To help himself. To line his own pockets, to play God. Don't say any part of the whole fucking story was in service to anybody other than the three of you. So closed-minded. Well, I will say this on Marduk's behalf. Three of us shared some ideals, different in others. Personally, I couldn't care less how the dregs of society live. The talentless and meritless could all shrivel and die for all I care. This world is meant to be enjoyed by the deserving. But Marduk, he always had this egalitarian streak, even as a young lad. There is no doubt in my mind he agreed to Zahak's plan for what it could offer the lowest class. His people. And since the plans crumbled, he's only redoubled his efforts on that front. His plan for the Duats is to create an army, a kingdom for those who with no other flag to claim as their own. I can't say I fully approve of that motivation, but to each their own. At least he has the stones to create that army with his own iron fists. Okay then. What you described. It feels pretty high-level conspiracy, I have to admit. Secret cabal of people controlling the whole city? Cabal? There were only 3 of us, you know. Yeah, that's worse. Ah, well, I'm simplifying things, of course. Things are always more complicated than they seem. It seems like your power is pretty limitless. Thank you. So, Panthea, do you just do whatever you want with it? Are you involved in just about everything? You give me far too much credit. As I said, I'm an old man. Life is passing me by. Once upon a time, perhaps I'd have the energy to dance from issue to issue around this city, pulling on each and every string. That time has long since passed. Nowadays, I'm not even concerned with the specifics of how Olimpo is operated. That's right. And those files we found. Well, I'm still interested, you see. I don't intend to become a doddering, uninformed mess at any point in my life. I'm just saying that my capacity, nay, my desire for meddling has dropped drastically as the years wear on my old body. If Odin were to be believed, he was claiming to have little to do with any of the current events that were going on in Panthea. I was inclined to believe him, too. But then what? What was I supposed to make of all of this? Was this secret pact, Zahak and his serpents? Was this all useless information? Unimportant? I couldn't believe that. Well, thank you, Odin. We'll be going now. Goodbye. Now, wait. For telling us all that. Like I said, you earned that much. Now then. Odin walked away to a nearby display. Then, to my surprise, he took a katana off the wall and began to brandish it. Whoa. What are you doing? Odin gave it a few practice swings. How long has it been since I used one of these? Yet I remember the motions so clearly. Like a bike. Odin slammed the katana into the nearby table, denting its side. Odin! Why are you swinging that around? Are you? You're not planning on using that on us, right? Oh shit! It wasn't a possibility I was thinking about. No. Think, Lar. I'm an old man. Making our battle a contest of blows would be far too easy for you. Wait, our battle? What are you talking about? You seriously didn't believe things would be so simple, did you? Solving the riddle of the Sphinx, that was your ticket into this war room. Now you must earn your ticket out of it. Fuck you, Mercury, that poem was dope. Fuck you, Easy, that poem was certainly something. Nobody appreciates good art. It's a dying industry. It's more free-form poetry than anything. It's a dying industry, it really is. I mean, on some level I get it. Poetry is not something people are accustomed to appreciating. But even still, why not try to understand instead of criticizing from on high? It annoys me to no end. I fear we've gotten off course. I mean, what is there to talk about? You asked me, this whole basement reveal is pretty boring. Rusty weapons, a desk, some poems. Yawn. I'm sure it's more interesting if you were there, but I was theorizing some real sick shit. At the very least, we got to hear Odin lore dump this city's backstory. By this point, that much was sort of obvious, you know? I mean, money and crime and politics all colluding to hoard power. A story told. Sure, we got some tales, but did it even matter? That whole Triberti shtick is long over. Maybe I'm just cynical because I was expecting more, like a human experimentation lab or something. Oh, speaking of, the bet. We had a bet if there was someone down there. I almost forgot. Well, Odin did come down, but notably he was not already down in the basement, so I think that the outcome of that bet is pretty clear. You lose. Too bad, I was really rooting for you. It's a shame you were punished for choosing the more interesting answer. But I gotta respect the truth, and the truth is nobody was there. Maybe bet less in the future. Something like 5 chips. Less. Whatever. The gamble continues. Rude. We have lots of gold keys now. And we approach the end. Who is Mercury? Really feels like Mercury is more than he is letting on. He seemed to react to seem to react to Odin in a concerned manner. And obviously, the more telling part of this was the direct meeting with Odin. Odin's wording afterward still really grabs me. I have not met the person in front of me before. AKA, I know who you are. You know I know who you are. I'm going to play along because you intrigue me. I have my thoughts on that. I'll hold that off until we get the reveal. So, until Mercury's story comes up again, we will see. But yeah, Mercury seems to know about a lot of stuff that the Mercury, as we know him, probably wouldn't know about. Catch up with Thane and then Devon. Devon is our insight into Aisha's side of this new Tremurti. We'll see how that holds up. Thane is an insight into Marduk's activities and the Duats in general, and their relationship with the factors of the city as they stand now, after the fall of the original Tremurti. Very interesting. Very interesting. We'll see you next time then. Until then.